All right, we'll just wait for people to get in. So I'll give a couple more minutes and then we'll start. God damn. Alright. Are the music levels okay? If anybody can just confirm for me, I can leave them alone. And be talking at kind of like this relatively relaxed tone. So as long as you're able to hear over the top of this, then we're all good. Alright, cool. Alright, perfect. Okay, so we'll kick things off, but I want to make a point first. The last time, one of the last times that I did a private stream for my group was the COVID crash. So just be aware that I have a track record of streaming during incredibly strong sell-offs. So let's try and not repeat history here, but we'll see. Yeah, I got the whole of the March crash for I think we streamed for like 3.5 hours just because shit was so wild. But yeah, let's hope we don't run into the same issue. Alright. So really what we care about at the moment is, you know, kind of what's the reaction going to be like. Because the majority of things that we see are losing major levels. Not a good sign for the majority of things. We'll hide Cuban spans and we'll just go clean, and then we'll put Cuban spans back on to kind of take a look at the higher time frame picture. So at the moment, ETH is probably the one thing that I would look at taking a long position on and try and scalp this long, and really it would just kind of add some protection against the current short exposure that I have. You know, the short exposure that I've got is considerably up. The two positions are not anywhere near as big as I'd like, just because there's simply been no bounces to short. Right? There's been nothing to get short on. And we may try and scalp long on ETH depending on the reaction. I'm just conscious with 40 minutes until the open, we're going to see volatility at the open given the action today. So first of all, daily, like big fucking uh-oh for ETH. You know, this is a range breakdown, which is not a great thing to be seeing. Now, the one thing that I keep on mentioning, and I really want to continue to stress this, alright, if this is something that, you know, you're taking an interest in my style of trading and you're taking an interest in RSI, this interaction of RSI here is 101 downtrending action. Rejection at the 50, curling around and having impulse to the downside. Right, this is classic RSI trend continuation setup. So be aware of this. We touched on this multiple times during the uptrend. For anybody that was, you know, watching my Twitch streams during the rallies, we touched on this interaction a lot. really, really important that we also now give it credit in a downtrend. Ideal scenario for ETH is this recovery. If you're bullish, that's what you're looking for. You have to look for a recovery back above this region. Realistically, ETH probably gets back up to here and rejects again. So the bottom of this level here is what we'd be looking at now to potentially retest as resistance, so the 2100 level. And I think any scalps that I do look at playing, it's going to be very important that we think about taking profit around these regions, right? These regions here are where it's going to be important to look at taking profit. So it's where we don't let the mentality of this is going to rip back inside here get to us, because in that scenario, we've got a second position we can take. All right, so we can just play this up to the resistance level. And if this is to reclaim this level, then we've got a second trade setup that we can take. Let's hop down to the 5 minute. We've got a pretty decent piece of action here on ETH. Pretty good recovery so far. Getting back above this level is a good start. Lower time frame. It's one area that ETH has kind of messed around with on the 5 minute here. And I know that BTC has some divergences as well. So the daily picture we know is not a good position at all for ETH at the moment. Right? The daily is breaking down from the range. And I said yesterday on stream, when we break down, if we break down, it will be very clear that it is a breakdown candle. And I think today is a good example of that. This is a very clear example of a breakdown candle from a range. Bulls will hope for the recovery. Right? 4 hour. Maybe hanging on to the bottom here. Hell of a lot of work to do from this point. We'll take a check back on ETH in a second. We'll see how it reacts to this red level. BTC. Good reaction. Good consolidation region here for anybody that spotted it. There was just a really nice consolidation here. And BTC ended up dropping to the downside from this consolidation. Now, interestingly as well, this red level here, I think is the 4 hour. Yeah, so it's the original 4 hour low over here. And we kind of been struggling to get back above that. We looked as though we might have some divergences printing in this region as well, and it just simply hasn't materialized. Higher time frame, ugly daily close. Ugly daily close as well, because what we have here now is we have our original divergence that we had through here. We have this being the play out of the divergence, and we have this being the continuation of the downtrend. So we can see here, RSI diverging, bounces to the 50 level, turns around at the 50, continues the downtrend. Again, ugly situation for BTC. And then take your pick on any alt. They all look like a fucking car crash right now. You know, we know things like Doge are getting smacked. Quite obviously, you know, Doge is just going to drop like a stone. I would have thought to 7 cents at a minimum. There's nothing here. You know, there's nothing here for it. This is just air. There's literally nothing in this region. So the next level we've got is, you know, down here at 7 cents. So, you know, if you need to phone grandma up to tell her that it's time to sell her Doge bag, then now is the time to do it. Yeah, and traditional markets, yeah, continuing to be strong, right? Continuing to be strong, which is the super unfortunate thing. You can't short Doge here, man. There's an awkward balance that we have as traders, which is we want to short because the market's going down, but you know we're 25% down. You know, on most things, you know, let's take an average of the market. We're 20 to 25% down. It's very difficult to short into these conditions. You might get paid. You might have a very aggressive swing back up, right? Just like we did literally yesterday. Right, last night was a pure effort in stopping out short positions before continuing. And it's very difficult to position into that. If you want to position short now, we have to wait for bounces. We have to wait for bounces. If we don't get bounces, we sit on our hands and we wait. Logan says smart to short the 13 EMA 1 hour retest. That's not something that my system can discuss, because I don't know the effectiveness of that. But if it's something that you know is a good approach, then by all means. We're still looking for shorts, right, primarily. The other thing is, we'll put on Cuban's bands in a minute, because Cuban's bands are very good for disaster areas. And I think it's worthwhile considering disaster areas. I genuinely believe that is a good thing to consider. Market's in a really awkward position. It's in a really rough place. There's going to be a lot of people who are hurting with this price action. And it could be that what we're seeing today is the resolution of a consolidation range and breaking to the downside again. BTC just about holding on, most alts not. We take a look at a couple of the alts that I really want to be a big buyer on. One of them is Alice. Alice is breaking down here. Really nasty breakdown on Alice. RSI continuing. Nothing that's indicating this is stopping soon. The same with the situation we've got on BTC, right? The RSI is only just breaking down. We're not even oversold. Right? It's a meme to say, but it's true, because what this indicates is the momentum is still to the downside. The momentum is still heavy on the downside. Same with ETH. That curl around at the 50, not even oversold. The momentum is to the downside. It's the unfortunate thing with everything in here. Even though it's been so brutal already, the momentum is still on the bearish side. The momentum is still firmly with the bears. FTT, right? Look at the daily again, curling round. Now, if I'm going to scare you even more, and please don't be too worried about this stream, take a look at the 3-day. Take a look at the weekly. Right, look at the weekly on FTT. If this continues to sell off, the weekly is just crossing the midpoint bearishly now. Take a look at ETH. We're trying to cross the midpoint bearishly. Take a look at BTC. We rejected the midpoint here on the weekly and we're heading down. Like every higher time frame RSI based signal that I have says that round 2 is coming. And I'm not here to be the scaremonger of, what's going to happen with price. All I'm saying is these setups on RSI are not great from a higher time frame perspective at all. Funding still positive after this. Yeah. You seem to love Alice. Any reason from a fundamentals perspective? I think Alice is a really cool project. Alice also satisfies one of the major criteria I have for gaming projects, which is I don't want it to be about crypto. And I think that Alice, kind of as a gaming concept, ticks a lot of boxes for mass adoption. So for me, Alice is a fantastic project if you believe in kind of gaming and crypto being hand in hand in the future. I think Alice is the exact sort of game that will be a great onboarding experience for people. Do you consider 24k as a good bounce point? Yeah, I think 24k makes sense. One of the other points that we have, and again, I'm really going for like the bear fear thing here, but I really don't mean to put that across. All I'm doing is kind of, objectively giving you the information. So like I said, please don't feel as though I'm kind of, doomsday prepping here, or that you should be, panicked for your crypto bags. I'm just giving you the kind of the overview based on what I see on the higher time frame. Like look at the BTC chart. There's nothing here. It's like Doge. Right? There's nothing here. The only level that there's something is here, right, which is the 12k level, and we know the former all-time high should be a bounce point, and we know that the daily has a little bit of demand around this 24k region. We also know that it would take out this cluster here. Right, so these wicks, this cluster of price action, get taken out. But when you look at the higher the time frame you go on crypto, the worse it looks. And that's the really unfortunate thing at the moment. The higher the time frame, the worse it looks. You go to the weekly and it's air, because everything was so aggressive in its rally. There's now just nothing. There's no established support levels. And so BTC, you shift it to the weekly, and what's to stop this filling in, right? And sure, you can go to the daily and you can find clusters on the daily, but the weekly says there's nothing until 20k and 12k. Realistically speaking, if this level here is lost, which is the level that is acting as the current support, there's nothing here. And the fact you have to go down the time frames to find something, I don't think is a particularly pleasing thing. Take a look at ETH. Right, we'll start on the daily. ETH loses this level here. Gonna head to 1500s. Right, potentially 1400s here is a nice level. So we've got this 1400 region just in here. So daily, yeah, fine. We can find some levels. Swap it to the weekly. Like, if this region here doesn't hold at the 1900s, again, we're running out of things, because this level looks weak on the weekly. And the next level we get to is back down at the 450s. Because there's nothing. These rallies were so aggressive. There's nothing left. So, we've just got to be very, very careful. Things like ADA are other examples. Loses this. And this is a black hole. This is absolutely 100% a black hole. This just gets ripped through. So because of the aggression of the rallies, we're in a position where, unfortunately, the sell-offs look worse. Or then they can get a lot worse. Because there are some just major fucking holes in the chart. Major holes. Sol. It's got the bottom at 24. But again, like, what is there here? What is there prior to $4.50? So unless we find demand, now that's the counter side to this. That's the counter side. The counter side to this is we find demand. Okay, the market steps up and the market says, do you know what? Actually, I'm happy to pay 1200 per ETH, and I'm going to protect the market at that level, because to me that's a fair price point. So sometimes, just in the same way that when we're in price discovery, we have areas of resistance that, make themselves visible, we would hope that during these corrections, there are levels of support that will make themselves visible. There are levels that people will step in at prior to $4.50 Sol. We would expect buyers to step in sooner than that. Maybe that's based on a lower time frame chart. Maybe that's just based on them as a buyer. So that's the opposite side to it. Well, not the opposite side, but it's the way that we can not see the kind of doomsday scenario. But yeah, I mean, you look, like, there's nothing on Sol. And you look at the stuff that we've got on, you know, the majority of alts. There really is a whole lot of nothing. Like, we covered Doge. You know, look at Doge on the weekly. Doge has already started attacking this. And like I said, because there's nothing here, it's all just, it's a black hole. It will just suck price straight through it. Unless somebody turns up to protect. I saw the price of Alpha a minute ago. Jesus Christ. Yeah, like Alpha. Like 25 cents. You know, like... Just a really nasty day. Anything positive? Oh, God. Alright, positive side. BTC still technically hasn't lost the bottom of the range. Right, BTC still hasn't lost the bottom of the range. Positive side is, those alts that have lost the bottom of the range, or are looking as though they're dropping down, over the next 3, 4, 5 days will recover back inside their existing ranges. That's the positive side. So some of these alts that are currently dropping out and have had 22% days, right? They will recover over the next 3, 4, 5 days and get back inside their ranges. And then once that happens, what's going to happen is everybody on Twitter is going to start talking about Wickoff and Springs. So just prepare yourselves for that. So if we get back inside the ranges, people are going to start talking about Wickoff and they're going to start talking about Springs, which is where price exits a range and gets back inside. I mean, yeah, I can tell you about Cake pretty easily, man. Cake is going to look the same as everything else, right? A piece of shit. 21% down. You know, data on FTX starts here at $9.30, and you know the matter of fact here is that it's just going to rip straight down here. Daily turning down, breaking down from support in a big way here. Would expect this to act as resistance. It's the same as every other alt chart. You know what happens when it gets underneath here? There's nothing. Thoughts on your portfolio investments? Nothing really, Tony. Like, it's SNX and BAL and Rook. And Rook's already paid for a little bit, but no, they just sit. I've always said, you know, if they go to zero, I think I lose like, what is it, 17k? So, no, not too worried about them. They'll just sit and stew. It was unfortunate timing for the buys. Got caught in the range. But yeah, they'll just sit. Nothing really to do, just not touch them. Would you trust those Wickoff charts or hidden bullish divergences? Yeah, like I'm a big fan of Wickoff. So, you know, like I will probably be contributing my thoughts to a Wickoffian range if we do spring back up. Other positive is, right? The other positive is, and this is a weird positive to take, but the other positive is that the fact that we've done a bear market correction in a matter of months instead of years should really be seen as a blessing. Like, it doesn't feel that way, but I can promise you, for those people that have only been here for one cycle, having this happen quick and fast is far better than having years of hope taken away from you time after time. So look, I mean, like if this is you know full bear market cycle and we're doing it in 3 months, I don't know, it seems like a pretty good thing, as long as the upside to this will be another bull run. What if there will still be another year of this? Yeah, I mean, that would be not as enjoyable. Yeah, true. Another positive is that we have the ability to short live these Ponzi coins versus USD. Yeah, 2018 survivor here can confirm. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing worse than prolonged bear markets. Like, fuck, if we do this shit in 3 months and start to cycle back around, damn. What about something like Quant that has been bullish the last few weeks? Like 50. But I mean, like, this dies as well. This dies as well. You know, this doesn't survive. Sure, it's been strong so far, but this doesn't survive. Two questions: are we in a bear market already, or is it the China and US news? Everybody quantifies and determines a bear market differently. Right? So a bear market for me is a daily downtrend. So therefore, yes, we're in a bear market. So yeah, like from my perspective, yeah, we're in a bear market. What would be the potential exit point for BTC once it's back in the range or swings back up? Well, you're kind of like bottom of the range at the moment. So you're at the bottom of the range at the moment for BTC. So if you're talking about an exit point and exiting your BTC spot holdings, then you need to think about, I can't really give you the answer to that, because, you know, that's kind of a personal financial decision. All you can do is look at potential resistance levels and decide if it's worth you selling at those particular points in time. If we anticipate alts will recover to the range, would it be smart to long alts to the bottom of the range? If we're anticipating that alts recover back inside their ranges, you know, let's take Alice as the example, just because that level is very, very clean on Alice, even though it's not a clean sideways range. We can still take this as our discussion point. So one thing that we've discussed is, you know, how does that picture of a changing market affect the way that we can re-enter the market? So I've always said for BTC, you know, BTC needs to get to 60,000 for me to long it again. That's the level it needs to be at, because that's where we change the daily structure again back into an uptrend. Now, something like Alice, previously we'd say, okay, it's like $13 it needs to get back above. Right? We need to start breaking above these highs again. Now, we've got a different setup, because now we've got a very clear support level here that's broken down. And so what we can do is we can use this as a point to re-enter now the market. So if we get back above this level here at 516, then we can use this as an opportunity to re-enter. So what we're doing in this scenario, right, Benjamin, is we're looking for alts to recover, and once they recover, then we're looking at making some plays. But we need to get back in. We need to make sure there's strength. We need to make sure the market is recovering. Why will it last? Why will it last less long? What are the arguments? Because I don't see many people ready to invest again in crypto over the coming months. The trouble is, and the reality is that the people who matter you don't know, right? So it really doesn't matter who the people who are ready to invest in crypto again, and whether or not you know them or not, because the people who really matter are the people who were selling at 60,000 and are the people who are quite happily going to rotate back in. It's the same people that bought at 4,000 when everybody else was panicking. And it's also why retail and the people that we tend to interact with buy very late. So, you know, like I appreciate the sentiment, Sam. But, you know, realistically, the people who matter, we don't know them. So they're the people who will invest, not the people we know. Yeah, Cope having a great day. Great day. Just relentless. Look at that. Christ. First time in a bear market, are alts likely to show strength if BTC is ranging? In the bull market, that was a positive sign for alts. Not particularly, Tony, because bear market conditions are slightly different. So in bear market conditions, what we typically do is we tend to just trend down until we form a larger horizontal trading range. And we've seen that once on BTC. If BTC can manage to go sideways, we'll see a kind of reflection of what we saw during kind of the positive side, which is that alts will have good days. Some alts will do better than others, right? Just in the same way we saw in those conditions. But we will very rarely see shit popping off, you know, 50, 60, 70% again in a day. You know, when we were trading the last bear market, we were talking about things like if something went up, you know, 10%, that was fucking massive. That was a big move. You know, we were used to far smaller numbers. Whereas this aggression, the volatility has really built up in the last sort of 6 months or so. Right? The prior trading ranges that we had, you know, the moves that we were expecting were all far more relaxed. They were still fucking amazing because they were still way more volatile than equities were. But there's nothing like the volatility we've got today. Let's hop back over to ETH a second and see what's going on there. Jesus Christ. They just won't let it move, man. They just will not let it move. Yeah, crypto bear market, TradFi bull market. We'll see. Yeah, so Tony, to give you know, like the short answer is yes, but just don't expect the same sort of, you know, levels of movement. That's all. But yes, we'll still see some alts outperforming in the same way that we do now. It's a pleasure. Can we look for some scalping setups? We're only going to be interested in BTC or ETH. And the reason that we're interested in BTC or ETH is because everything is just following what they're doing. So we may take a look at a couple of other liquid alts because we would hope that the upside bounces would be greater. We know the short side sell-offs are better. Platinum is very, very nice here. The other reason that we're also not looking for setups just yet is because we've got 10 minutes until the daily close and open. We don't really want to mess around with the volatility on either side of that just for now. Platinum, very attractive setup here for anybody that's interested in the traditional side of things. Really nice movement back down to this very important weekly level on plat. Maybe a little further to go. I'm cautious at the moment just about this little area down here. See this? Little untested region just down here. So I'm just cautious about this 900, but I think this is a fantastic starting level. Let's go back and see how we'll stick with BTC for now, and we'll see how BTC opens going into the new day. Delete this. Yeah, I still think the metals are alright, to be honest with you. I think, you know, this is the monthly kind of, you know, region through here. So I still think this is okay. Just needs to recover, right? Just needs to recover. This was a really healthy run up for gold and a very strong correction. But I think it just needs to hold around this sort of, you know, 1750s level. Same with silver. You know, we are still aggressively pushing the upside, and we're going to expect to see these sell-offs. As long as it maintains the pressure in these regions, both gold and silver, then, you know, things are still fine. It really depends on what goes on here, right, with the indexes. The SPX was incredibly strong recovery today. Just completely engulfed Friday. Just completely engulfed Friday. Just crazy, crazy strength. But, you know, we've seen similar stories here. Similar stories in this region. But platinum looks great. You take platinum as a CFD? Yeah. I take platinum as, I think January 2022 is what my position is. Yeah, January 2022. I trade them at a broker called Saxo Bank. Is Sierra Chart another charting platform? Yeah, it does. And does it have advantages? No. Well, yes, but not to the average person. The average person will look at Sierra Charts. The piece of software itself is basically feels as though it was built in the 90s and has never been improved since. It is incredibly clunky and hard to use, but it has the purest form of Renko available. So for me, it's kind of like top tier. But if you're just using like candlesticks, then it's awful. tick charts. Tick charts. What's defined as a tick on Sierra? Whatever I make it. So whatever settings I choose. So I think at the moment it's like 100, 150, and maybe 70 at like the tick settings I'm using. Someone mentioned earlier a positive being that we can now short alts against USD. What effect does this have on the market? I mean, potentially more downwards pressure in the same way that we got more upwards pressure, but just more ability, right? Just more kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? We have more options than we had previously, because previously our options were relatively limited when it came to shorting against USD. We had to make decisions against BTC. Whereas now it kind of frees up the market. It's a little bit more kind of individual in terms of, what you can trade and how you can trade it. I mean, potentially, for bear market conditions, that's not a great thing either, because, people have more access to shorting options in terms of alts. Would you consider BTC D divergence continuation? Are you talking about daily or dominant? Please make the right decision here, Robert. Okay. Yeah, no. No. This is fresh because we've hit this 50 level, right? So it's a reset. This is the play out of the div. We can take the low here because it's the last point of the divergence. It's a 33% upswing. That's the div play out. That's it. That was the div play out. This is a fresh leg down. Fresh rotation. So like we talked about yesterday, right, on stream from Twitch, we were speaking about things like Aave, and we were talking about these, basically bullshit rallies that we got yesterday. And we were talking about the way they had 4-hour divergences, and some of these upswings were 13 to 15%. And I said that's enough for a 4-hour div to play out. So just keeping that in mind, we're dealing with downtrending scenarios. When we see divergences, we have to now balance our mindset to say, well, no longer can I sit in a 4-hour divergence expecting it to be a macro bottom. Right? 13, 15% is an incredibly healthy move in a downtrend to be able to take advantage of a long. No, I don't use OBV woods. I don't need it. I don't need any confluence for RSI. I just use RSI. I can't, there's no point in me adding in additional things. It kind of doesn't make sense, right? The system works with just RSI. So there's no reason for me to add anything additional in as confluence when it just works independently. So I don't want to start cluttering things. How much is a weekly divergence percentage move? We don't know. Depends on the market. But we don't know what a weekly div would give us. We know what it would on BTC if we measure the last move. Because we know we got from the current high here to the low. And we know this is a weekly div that gave minus 55% from the bearish perspective. We don't know what the bullish side looks like yet. Certainly not in these conditions anyway. Yeah, so definitely Benjamin. So that's one of the key things that I'll be doing is I've got a series that I had in my other group, which was it's called Taking Trading More Seriously. And this is something I'll be bringing across to the Haven. I recorded last night an introduction to Renko video. It's a very good reminder actually to upload it. Sorry, this is the daily open as well, so we'll just get it in a lower time frame here to this to see the action. So yeah, it is something that I'll be bringing over is kind of, you know, how to start thinking about creating your own system. Following mine is kind of pointless. I mean, it's not really pointless, but you know, what's important is that you trade using what you enjoy. And I would rather give people the tools in order to be able to kind of create a system out of what they enjoy, versus them looking at my system and being like, I want to trade like that. You may enjoy that, which is fine, but I want to give people the option to be able to utilize things like, you know, EMAs, if you follow any of the other guys in here on how they trade, or whether or not you use things like OBV that, you know, Woods may use. So just making sure that people have access to, you know, what I think are the important criteria and ways that you can begin thinking about having a system, being able to trade systematically with less emotion, with less narrative, managing the psychology a bit better. God damn. Alright. So I want to cover another thing here, which is BSV. So this is one that I spoke about on Twitter, right, in that set of two that I didn't reveal on Twitter, but I revealed in the group. So BSV is one of those. And the reason that BSV is so important to me to have short exposure on is because it's nonsense, right? It's one of like the poorest crypto markets. It's trash. It's complete garbage. And what we've got on BSV is like basically a whole load of nothing. So the one area on BSV for me that's always been a major sticking point, and this is a chart that I look at way more regularly than you'd imagine. This level here on the weekly is so important to BSV. Just look at the amount of time that BSV spent above this level. You know, it spent the good part over a year just sitting above this level. Like, what happens when this level's lost? As we're doing here. You know, what happens to BSV? Like, there's nothing. Like, who wants to buy BSV as well? So unless this market is propped up, which there's a pretty good chance it will be, it absolutely is one of the better shorting options. Because there's simply, it doesn't have anything going for it. It doesn't have anything going for it. Alright, let's get on to ETH. BSV is open pretty negatively. I can't even take a long position here. I Can't even take a long. Would love to, but can't. 15-minute nothing. Could easily continue down. Hourly invalidated the divergence. 4-hour no div. 12-hour continuation. Daily continuation. The only thing that's tempting about this position is I can get a relatively tight stop and I can trade it based on market structure. So I can trade it based on this here as the change in the market structure. And I can maybe try and trade it on that. Maybe I could take an entry slightly lower. I just want the cleanest invalidation necessary here. I'm just going to sit in this a second. I'm not going to take position yet. I need to see how this candle closes. Jesus Christ. I mean, at least my potential entry is getting better. Not particularly, Stu, because I'll be trading ETH, for example. So not really. BTC can act completely independently because we know that, for example, BTC developed a daily divergence, ETH didn't, but ETH still performed pretty damn well during that period of time. So I tend not to look at BTC. If I'm making a decision on something, I'll trade the chart that I'm making a decision on. Not anything else. You said in one stream that the biggest early trading mistake was not taking profit. Sounds like a silly question, but how do you overcome that? I mean, it's a silly question only because the answer is you take profit. Which is, an equally silly response. But it's the truth. The only way you overcome it is by taking profit. No worries, Will, take care. You have to learn how to take profit. You have to understand the reasons why you choose not to take profit, which are very, very often grounded in greed and grounded in a thought process that always assumes that you'll make more money if you stay in the position. One of the best ways of doing this as well is backtesting. So backtesting and understanding where taking profit is the best play for you. Understanding if I have a divergence, let's say on the 15-minute chart, what's the average upside expectation I can have for that play in a downtrending scenario? What about an uptrending scenario? What about a sideways scenario? So understanding kind of some of the common take profit points, but just on a really, really simple level, just look at taking profit at resistance if you're in a long position and we're downtrending. Look at taking profit in a short at support, right? You just look at those things and they're just, you just pull the trigger on taking profit. And like I said, it's a stupid answer, but it's the truth. The only thing you can do is learn by doing. And don't overthink it. One of the big things you have to do is you have to make sure that whenever you take profit, you're celebrating that fact. It's important to celebrate your success. If you're making money from the market, then you absolutely take that success and you're happy about it, and you don't start then criticizing yourself, say, well, if I would have held on to that position, I would have got another 5% out of this trade. Who cares? So we kind of in an odd position as traders that When we don't take profit, we punish ourselves, and when we take profit, we don't celebrate it. We instead punish ourselves by, criticizing all the things that we should have done by holding on to the position. How do you recommend going about backtesting? Use the replay tool in TradingView. So you can just hit this button up here, go back to a period in time, and then just start backtesting whatever data you're using. You want to go back to before here, and then you just start playing through, taking a look at any setups that you would trade, anything that you would look at. Start mapping out. Well, I take a short position here, and I look at having a stop above here, and then you'd see how that would go. Right. So you just look at going through your system, literally using the replay tool. It's one of the best ways you can do it. And what you're doing all the time is you're collecting data on what is successful, what is unsuccessful, what you can improve on. And what you're also doing is you're making a note of the market conditions. So you want to know if your system is effective in uptrends, downtrends, sideways action. So you need to understand what conditions we're in as well. So if you're testing anything in the current data, then you're looking obviously at downtrending conditions on lower time frames. If you want to look at uptrending and how your system performs in an uptrending environment, you're going to look at kind of 2021. If you want to look at sideways, go back and look at sort of 2019. I would just use Discord, Woods. I genuinely would just use Discord. Like I used to use Edgewonk and just used everything in Discord after. It's just easy to do. Demon finding, like it seems to me like you're pretty aware of what the issues are. Sounds more to me like you need to figure out how to just beat them. Right? It seems like you understand probably with pretty decent effect what your demons are. I hear from some traders that you shouldn't celebrate a profitable trade. You should be a robot, so you eliminate emotion, profit or loss, just another trade. Nah, like incorrect. What's the point in doing it if you can't celebrate it? It's like your boss giving you a promotion and you just sitting there and being like, "Thank you, sir. Goodbye." Like nah, like you celebrate. You celebrate success. 100%. Like if you're trading like a robot, you may as well let a robot trade for you. Right? So just use an algo if that's how you want to behave. But from my perspective, the only way to build a positive psychology is by celebrating success. By the way, just to reinforce anybody that's just looking at this, we are not in this trade. Maybe you mentioned already, next support. If we break down convincingly from here, Robert, and it's 20k and 12k, right? They're the next kind of key areas. Maybe some decent bounce at 24k. That's if we get the big dick breakdown. Yeah, I agree, Stu. Right, I agree. I think as well it's you say it's pretty unnatural not to feel good about winning. Yeah, and I think it's something that we shouldn't have. Trading is a very difficult thing to do, and so we should absolutely celebrate when we are doing things correctly or well. It should be celebrated. in this market conditions, why do bear divs work better than bull divs on lower time frame? Is it because we're in a downtrend? Yeah, exactly. So the divs, we talk about kind of like counter trend divs, but there's a difference. Right? There's an important differentiation to make, which is we can go counter trend on lower time frame. So we could take a bear div, which would technically be counter trend, let's say on the 5-minute chart. Right? Let's say, you know, we have price action that goes like this, and we decide what we're going to do is we're going to short this divergence here. So what we're doing is we're saying counter trend, we're taking this position because the lower time frame is aggressively moving higher. But this bear div plays into the macro trend, which is down. So what we're doing in this situation is actually we're looking for a bear div on lower time frame that plays into a macro downtrend, which is a great scenario to be in. The worst performing divergences right now are long lower time frame divergences playing into a macro downtrend because they're very ineffective, very weak. Lower time frame bear divs playing into a macro downtrend, very good. How do you use Discord for a trading journal? Just create a private Discord server for yourself and post all of your trades, your setups, add channels. Basically, you know, create your own version of the Haven, but only for you. Post your trades in there, assess your trades, analyze your trades, document your trades. Easy. Christ, H-bar 4% down on the open. Cope was green. So 5% on the open. Damn. My soul short is 37.78. God damn. Low teens for Sol? Yeah, I mean, like, at this point, who knows? You know, we would certainly maybe expect this to go. But we're pretty extended here. Yeah, just rough. In hindsight, should we have given more credence to the Finex shorts? I don't think so necessarily. I mean, like, if that data's important to you, then sure. But I don't think you should just, you know, use an event like that. You know, maybe, you know, you could add it into your thought process the next time you see something like that developing, then sure, like, by all means add it in. At least you've got a data point you can use now. You know, the majority of the shorts, you know, a lot of the shorts were removed yesterday. You know, there was people that were talking about it was, what, 60% reduction in the shorts into the lows, you know, and then today is where the day really came, where the short side got paid. Oh, can you explain Cuban band's disaster points? Yeah, let's do that. I forgot to turn that back on. Let's turn that back on now. It looks good on the chart anyway, so let's bring that into play and let's swap it to the higher time frame. Yeah, PA could be very funny around the sailor entry. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That would be a very interesting point. BTC looking like hot garbage. Yeah, indeed. If BTC loses the range low, would you advise trying to short lower time frame retest or too late? Too much potential cookery. Best sit out dump. Look to longer rebound. Now, I would never look to longer rebound. You've got to be very, very aggressive if you're trying to take long positions in the current climate. Primarily, I think you could absolutely short a lower time frame retest because you've got clear invalidation, right? You know that getting back inside the range, would be a major reason to exit and to get out of the position. All right, Cuban's bands, disaster points. So Cuban's bands, these reversion bands, they're very good at. I'll swap to a clean chart. They're very good at identifying potential either overextension to the upside or the downside areas. Right? That's what they're primarily used for. And so we can see here the green areas are basically where we would expect an extreme sell-off to go to. And the thing that's always nice about the bands they line up pretty well to some of the technical levels that we look at. Right, so one of them is 12,000. So one of those levels that we looked at before is 12,000. Which is down here. Right, which lines up pretty damn well to the bottom of this green band here. The other level that we consider, 20,000. There's a 20,000 level line up to this green band here. Where did the first dump stop? This first green band level here. Very good potential danger regions. Now again, this is something that when we get to these levels, we tend to have a good bounce. So if we look kind of historically, look at the sell-off here for the first 20k rally. Got down to the 5ks, big rally, 2x back up. Consolidation within the bands here. Big sell-off when we broke down 6k the first time. Touched into the bands, made a nice divergence, nice recovery, and then continuation sideways. Then obviously we have the expansion to the upside all through this region, and again, major COVID sell-off here. Where do we get to? Outer band. This here is the most aggressive sell-off point you can imagine, these outer bands. The most extreme sell-offs will touch the outer bands, these ones. Same with the most aggressive rallies. The most aggressive rallies will get towards the top of the bands here. Now ideally what we would like to do is combine this with a divergence. That would be the best play for us. Combine this with a div. Okay, so what we do is we look for a daily divergence that is within these bands. So if we get a move down here and a dip like this and a div in these bands, we look at buying spot in these positions. This is like spot buying 101 setup. Because it tends to be that on higher time frames when these bands are touched, we tend to form pretty decent bottom regions. Right, and even here to some extent, we've seen a pretty damn good bounce from the touch to 29. Sweet mother. 13% on BSV to kick off the day. What a fucking beauty. We should take profit on Sol. I don't really have one. Yeah, I don't really have one. Yeah, Cuban spans are great on lower time frame as well, because Cuban spans on lower time frame operate in the same way, right? They operate in the same manner. Now, I'm talking about higher time frame because that's of more interest to me, right? The higher time frame is of more interest to me. So I like the lower time frame, the higher time frame stuff, because it gives me a good indication of when I can buy spot. Okay, we take a look at something like ETH, then we talk about the levels back into the 700s down here, being important on the daily, and we look at the weekly, which brings us again to a roughly similar area. But when we look at lower time frames, we also get very, very similar stuff. Okay, look here. Okay, you can see touches into the extremes here, again supported by divergences, are usually very good trades. Now what we're doing in downtrending scenarios is primarily we're looking to play bounces to this midpoint. So look at the 15-minute interaction here for ETH. Downtrending market makes it up to the extreme. Sell off ensues, loses the midpoint, travels down to the low. Bounces back to the mid, sells off to the low. Bounces back to the mid, sells off to the low. Bounces back to the mid, right? Continues selling off. So you can see this is what these bands are useful for. Lower time frame, they operate very well, because what this does as well is it keeps us in the trade, it keeps us in the position, because we're still downtrending. We can see the extreme of the recovery. We can see the extremes of the sell-offs in case we want to take profit. And we can see the way we can manage our position through the usage of the midpoint. Now, because these are reversion bands, that's what we expect to happen. We expect us to hit an extreme, revert to a midpoint, and continue. Revert to a midpoint, continue. Revert to a midpoint, continue. So also equally good on lower time frames. Right, it starts to get a bit choppier and more aggressive if you get down to the 5-minute. And obviously the 1 minute as well. But again, even if you want to take, trades that are coming down to the extremes or hitting the extremes up here, very good opportunities to take in trades lower time frame. Good bounce on ETH here. I've got to save this as well now. I think I'm in a decent enough position that I can maybe advertise my short position on Twitter after. So just keeping an eye on this on BTC. What do people think when they see this? Like, what's chat's thoughts on this and what we're seeing here on BTC? When do you set a TP and when do you improvise your TP? Set a TP if I'm usually going counter trend, right? Because it's important I get out of the position. I improvise my TP when I either get a move that aggressively gets away from my entry. So like say I did on Sol, right? 37.80-ish. And obviously we're down, like 40% from my entry, whatever number it is now. So I get a lot of time now to think about how I want to manage that position. Any reason you didn't share the short setups in the Haven? The Sol setup I was away for, and I just took the position. And the BSV position is literally, I think, 50% of what I would want to take, and that's it. So both BSV and Theta, I said that I would share the setups on a bounce. And we got a bounce yesterday, but not enough for me to consider it to be a valid fresh setup. And obviously not appreciating the fact that the market would sell off 25% the next day. So it's not like I'm trying to freeze you out. Okay, nice. So bear exhaustion, momentum declining, reset the RSI, more goblin tone. Yeah, okay. Higher time frame, better div. Well done, SJ. Nice job. Loss of momentum. Good job. Temp relief, more downside. Yeah, potentially. More than 14 candles between the peaks. Good identification. Bullish div, maybe. Think to get a higher time frame and look. Nice job, Woods. Positive divergence. It's in a bull div, says Shiv. Yeah, again, good identification, but we may have an issue with the length. Clemens says, as Benjamin said, maybe too much time between the candles. Rob says, touch 50 twice on the RSI, sucks as a div. Rash says an increase in momentum. Yeah, also hit the 50, says Mitch, and too many candles, 14. So some good points in there, like big bonus points to those guys who have, watched the vids or have listened to me discussing RSI. Because, you made some good identification points in here of what we're looking at. Now, there's still things that we can glean from this. So first of all, as we said, let's swap to a higher time frame, right, to look for a valid div. That's one of the points that SJ made, and that's one of the points that Woods made. So here we've got this, where we've got maybe a divergence between these two. Right, it's pretty tight. Let's get rid of my arrows first. We know that they're there. So we've got maybe a divergence in here. Just awkward position though. Awkward position. And then we've got this leg here, which hasn't really done a lot. The only thing that we've done from a bullish perspective is we've not created a low, but we've swept the lows. And what we can see on the 5 minute is we can definitely see that each low that's been made, we've so far lost momentum into it. So we know that the momentum has been less here, here, and here. So we can see that. Now we don't have a clean div on the 15 minute, but the 5 minute can still potentially paint a picture for us. It can still potentially set us up with a position that we could look at taking. The same with ETH. Same story here. 15 minute, no div, sweep of the lows though. Maybe we get a bounce from this point. So good identification from the guys here. We've got kind of too many candles, but we can still learn something from this. Where we do see that reducing momentum on lower time frame. Is it enough to take a position? Maybe. Is it awkward? Yes. So I'm just swapping to Renko just to look at the price action here. And I'm pretty sure that today is the day that my sub runs out, which means that there's no data coming through from Binance anymore. So that Renko is going to be useless for me for now. Can you share a bit where do you spread your entries on the BSV short? Yeah, sure. So here, basically what I did was I decided that on the daily, that basically this was a good enough time to, this daily here was a good enough time to just start taking a position. Because all I was doing was anticipating a breakdown on the higher time frame based on the RSI. The problem that I've got with this in terms of kind of, making a position public or sharing it is because for me to take this position, right, this is something that I can just open with, open just with a smaller size, right? I can just take, like what I ended up with, which was about 40% averaged up a little to a little bit more of my desired position size. But really what I did was took a chance that the market was going to break down. There was nothing more than that to it. There's nothing more than a theory that BSV is a shitcoin and that I think it's going to break lower. That isn't enough for me to be able to share that with people. Right, I'm not going to start sharing things based on my theory that BSV is a shitcoin and is going to go down today. When we got the bounce here, right, this was the bounce region. This area here was the area that I was very close to sharing a short setup, because this area here, what we did is we tapped into this and then obviously continued to the downside. Now again, the only reason that I didn't share here is both myself from a kind of addition perspective to the position, is I didn't expect us to stop here. I expected us to continue higher. I expected BSV to squeeze more to the upside than it actually did. Unfortunately, BSV was so weak, it didn't even enable me to properly share a setup, right? Is this where you would look at the reaction of the midpoint of the bands as a trigger? Yeah, you could definitely look at that. You can see the interaction now with the bands here. Okay, see the interaction so far. So far rejecting. And again, this is why we can't take this divergence yet. Yeah, BSV trade was not part of the system. Kind of was and wasn't. It wasn't in regards to the fact that there was only one confluent factor hit, which is the daily RSI rotating down. That's not strong enough for me to share. Yeah, that's not strong enough for me to share. Again, just one of those kind of unfortunate things that the market sold off hyper aggressively. You know, if I'd known that BSV was going to sell off 25%, then shit, yeah, I would have shared it and said short from any fucking way. Do whatever you want. But unfortunately, they're kind of the parameters around the ideal trade, and also for myself, right? Because I don't have a full position size on it. I wish I did. I haven't got a full position size on it. So even like my own parameters aren't hit yet. Yep, using the bands, wouldn't it make sense to wait for a reclaim of the mid band? 100%. So if we did get above mid, but even above mid on the 5 minute is pretty dodgy. But yeah, if we aggressively wanted to look at positioning into this, absolutely. We could even make a case for the 15 minute being a better time frame to try and get long above here. Right, and then trying to aim for up here maybe. Right, and squeezing the stop up when we get the chance to. We'll see if anything develops in the next sort of 20 minutes or so. Yeah, Carol, so invalidation was a hell of a lot higher. Because if price went up, I was looking to add to the position, right, to actually make it a full position. So it was a lot higher. If I had a tight invalidation, if I had a better invalidation, it's something I could have shared. That's essentially the part that's missing. Yeah, I mean, I think HXRO probably ends up falling down to the low 40s, 30s as well. You know, again, I don't think this survives. I think this is probably... I think you probably get a retest up here if the market bounces. But it just broke a significant level on the daily. Broke back down underneath this former resistance level. Should have been support. And probably just continues to the downside. Yeah, do you think sub $1 SRM 100%? Any difference to your setup for the theta short? No. Except the theta short, you've got even tinier positioning. I've got like fucking nothing in this. Because again, it was so aggressive yesterday that you just couldn't do anything with it. Again, hyper unfortunate. I've just got like nothing in this. So now it's just waiting for bounces again. But, I mean, shit. How long does it take to become a profitable trader with a system like yourself? It's different for everyone. It's really different for everybody. Everybody will have a different time that it will take them. A lot of people will never become profitable with a system or not. The majority of the work that you need to do is on psychology anyway. So the majority of all of the work that you'll need to do and put into trading will all come from a mental perspective and not from a system perspective. So it really depends on how kind of, mentally agile you are in order to adapt to being a trader full time and the pressures that come with that. I really feel like anybody that aspires to be a full-time trader that currently has a job, my thing is always keep your job. Always keep your job. And if you get to a point where trading is beginning to consistently overtake your monthly earnings, then that's a point you can look at transitioning over. But first and foremost, always stay in your job and use it as side income until the point that one overtakes the other. When you backtested your system, what were the results? i.e. win-loss ratio, average R? How do you know it was a successful system? Well, I knew that there were more wins than losses, and I knew that my R ratio was good. So, in terms of kind of wins and losses, I think when I first started out, I was hitting around 58% wins. I think it was around upper 50s. And my average R at the time was actually pretty fucking decent in terms of what I could expect in terms of upside. And remember that when I first started trading this, I was primarily trading on futures. So I did a lot of back testing on futures and knew that it was a slower market. It responded very, very well to divergences. Longs paid out very, very heavily. So I knew that I had a very good kind of long setup system. But I think the win rate is into the mid 60s. Based on I think current market conditions are into the mid 60s, and obviously that's quite a lot of time fine tuning to filter out ineffective setups. I really want to take this trade. Which god do I pray to for relief? I think any at this point. Yeah, I really want to take this trade. This is a discretionary trade, but I really want to take this. Yeah, I really want to take this trade. Can you tell us what just went through your mind when you said you really want to take the trade? We're looking at a higher time frame Rango for confluence. Yeah. So essentially, we already know the picture on the 5 minute with the slowdown in momentum. I pretty much know that this system would be diverging if the data was printing. I know this system would be diverging in this region as well, which gives me a lot of confidence for this setup here. Then I looked at lower time frame Renko, can see the potential for a 15-minute divergence here and here. And so I can see this potential here, down here for the 15-minute div. And then I can see on the 5 minute as well that we've been continuously slowing down. So the last divergence that we had from here to here, right, this point here, gave us a really nice bounce from 33 and a half to 35. So there's a $2,000 bounce in this. And I can see the same situation building here. If you look at this, so we've got three higher lows, sorry, and three lower lows in price. And then this here, if this makes a divergence, then I think this is the play. The only thing that I can't do at the moment is take the position because we're still aggressively selling into this. So I can't take it yet in case this side of Ranko decides to do this. But basically, finger is on the trigger because I think if this starts to pop, then it's a very good opportunity to take a position. I got COPE airdrop and BT's average buy spot is 35k. It probably won't get liquidated and have normal income outside of crypto. Would you convert everything into USDT in my position or no? Well, the thing that I would say to you is, like, why not be in USDT? Because, if you're holding on to BTC from 35k, you're in an awkward position anyway. That's a relatively awkward position to be in. So why not convert into USDT and give yourself the flexibility and freedom to reallocate that money at a time that you deem to be better suited? Like, whenever I'm in positions like that where kind of my average is, awkward, I think it would probably be easier to just be in USDT and make some decisions at a later date, either into strength or into lower prices. Like, the COPE airdrop means nothing, right? You may as well just leave that. Like, it just feels as though by taking the money off the table, you just be more relaxed. Are the official trades posted in the Haven the only trades that you guys do? Are you selecting from your trades the ones that you want to share with the group? No, like, from my perspective, what I do is I'll share like every trade that I take as long as it's acceptable to trade. For example, if I take this trade now based on the 5-minute chart, I can't really post this in the Haven. The reason that I can't post this is because it's too aggressive. Like, I could be out of this trade in like 10 minutes time, and I can't manage scalps like that publicly, because I can also close the position very quickly if we start to turn down. Right, so my scalping style isn't suitable for trading. Everything else that I take, I would always share in the Haven. So, you know, the last Soul Shorts that I took, shared in the Haven. So everything that I personally take on a swing basis is shared. Anything that I take scalp like this, I can't share because I simply can't keep the information up to date quick enough. And I also can't, if people kind of set a buy position and go to bed, like, they also, if I update that 5 minutes later to say really bad reaction, close the position, then these people may get fucked. Right? So it's way harder to post scalps, but to do the swing positions, everything that I take on a swing perspective is posted. Renko works very well with Cuban's bands. It's my trade set up for a long time. Yeah, so Rose, so the long answer, or the short answer, is swing trades yes, scalp trades no, because they cannot be conveyed correctly or with correct timing without pissing people off. It's something I did in my group for a number of months, and basically the feedback was it's way too difficult to keep up to date with your scalps because we simply can't action them in the same time that you are actioning them. Therefore, it's, you know, a net negative experience both financially and, you know, to the trading style. Why did you choose to close your group and join the Haven instead? Well, two major reasons. Number one is support. So, you know, I ran that group solo for a long time. You know, what was it, 2 years of running that group by myself. And when you're the sole provider, of content, it's very, very difficult. And, you know, I've got family. I want to spend more time with my wife and child. And so having a group of analysts that I really, really like, you know, and I've always enjoyed their work, you know, it made sense. It was a good fit for me. It means that if I'm away for a few days, then other analysts are there to help you guys out and provide information. And then, secondly, the ability to be able to teach to a wider audience. So the ability to kind of expand the reach of what I was doing is also another big thing. Yeah, I'm very, very close to pulling the trigger on a long queue. So I'm going to take this position. I'm going to take this position. I'm going to tell you what my thought process is now. I'm going to set my stop here for now, 31,400-ish. And I'm going to tell you what my reservations are and what my thoughts are on this. So what's the entry? If I call the absolute Pico top. Yeah, that's good. Good start. Okay, so I'll tell you the thought process and the reservation on this. The thought process is I can very clearly see that there's going to be divergences forming on Renko. Okay, so I can see there's going to be divs forming on Renko, which is a positive sign. Right? I'm looking at a minute divergence here that's ticking over at the last low. I'm looking at a 5-minute divergence confirming here, and I'm looking at a 15-minute divergence potentially confirming down here. So I've got a really nice kind of domino effect of divergences. Next thing I've got is, this reducing momentum here at each of the lows on the 5-minute. If we take the 15-minute, we've got the sweep of the lows to start the day here, and we've got the sweep and the recovery and the good bounce up this side. Now, they're the positives. Now the negatives to this scenario and the negatives to this situation is that I'm basically longing into a lower high, and the market structure is still down. So the market structure is still this, right? This. Right, so this is technically the lower high in the market structure. So we've got 3 lower highs, and I'm longing into the lower high, which is the negative to this scenario. So I have to see this level broken. Now this is the reason my stop is relatively tight underneath here at 31,400. Because I need to keep this relatively tight for now. Will you add when the lower high breaks? Yeah, so when the structure flips, I'll look at adding into the downside. So what I want to see is this, add. Alright, continue. Would it be possible for you to post scalps as trade ideas like Krillin and Pierre do? No. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because the way that I scalp is very, very different to those guys. So it doesn't work in the same regard. The other reason that it doesn't really work in the same regard is that I very rarely have a stop loss. Because when I build a position, usually I have to be able to handle further downside. It's like now, right? Like I could post this in the Haven. But like I've already got the entry because I enter at market. I'm not looking at being a bidder. I'm not really interested in trying to set bids. So it's like, well, what do I do in this scenario? Like how do I share this effectively with people? Because I have an entry. It's on lower time frame. I'm looking at the 5-minute chart. You either get this entry or you don't, and that's it. Right? So like how do I post this retrospectively for people? It just can't happen. And it's like when these setups develop, unlike those guys that may use like a moving average or like Loma that will set bids, I simply can't do it. Because my scalping system doesn't work for that. Plus, I don't really scalp too much, right? I don't really scalp too much. So you're not really missing out on a huge amount. But, I can't post it in the same way. Like Pierre and Krillin may say, yeah, I'm gonna buy when BTC touches the 13 EMA. Well then yeah, sure, you can put the 13 EMA up and you can look. But for me it's like, I'm going to buy when we get a div form. But who knows what fucking price point that's going to be at, right? So all I can do is I can show you live my thought process, and I can give you the education around creating your own system. But from a scalp perspective, like I said, very, very difficult for me to share. And I know you get me. I'm just expanding on that just for everybody else. And like I said, I'm really not trying to be difficult with it, but I can guarantee you if I did, there would be far more problems. You know, like if I shared this setup now, you know that you can guarantee the response would be, well, how the fuck was I supposed to get an entry at 31,800 when you only shared it in the moment and we were already up to 32,000? You can't win. So we stick with the swings. I've just got to check the scammy BSV. Holy fuck.
Asking me about a girl. What girl? Her name was Alicia. Who's she? I don't know. He was very interested. What was the name again? Alicia.
Alright, so what are we looking for now with this? Well, we've got the break in the structure on the lower time frame that we were looking for. So that's a good start. So potentially some movement back down to this region. And then obviously then continuation. Now this is something I'm going to have to leave overnight, I can already tell. Because I've got to get up early in the morning. Yeah, 15% bounce on BSV, I know. Fucking ridiculous. Yeah, I've really had to peel some of the short side profit off that because I can't fucking stick around in it, which is... It's got a good bounce and it's got an hourly div. So I've got to... I mean, it's good because hopefully I can share a swing setup. But I've got to peel off some of the original profit point on that. Pretty good start. We'll take this. So we'll stick around for another 5 minutes or so, and then I better get some sleep. You said you don't bid, but your setup has you wanting to add now the lower high is broken, so will you do that as market as well? Yeah. Like, I genuinely cannot remember the last time I ever entered a bid or an ask on something, 100% of my orders are all at market. 100%. I never set asks and bids. Well, the slippage isn't too bad. You know, FTX is pretty liquid for BTC. So, like, I took a $250,000 position on this scalp. Right, so it's 250,000, and I got slipped $2. So I'm not worried about that. Market order fees, yeah. I mean, I've got reduced fees at FTX, so that's slightly different for me, right? It's a little bit different because I get some reduction in that. Yeah, I'm not flexing. I like to be transparent where possible. I think it's better to be transparent than not. What are your fees? Let me see. I don't even know what my market fees are right now. My fees are 0.01%. I know I trade. This is with this is on the perpetual futures contract, SJ. Yeah, so I get my fee tier is I guess considerably higher. So I have FTT, so I get discount. You know, like, my volume is good, so I also get additional reduction. Yeah, so I think like my 30-day volume on FTX, I think is 137 million. So I also get a fee reduction there. How much? Yeah, 137 mil for the last 30 days. Is BTC just going back to range and act like yesterday was nothing? I doubt. But I think this will be a nice bounce. You know, again, it's got to be aggressive in terms of trying to take out some of the short positions. This is prime. You know, this region here is prime to take out. So we'd expect some sort of movement into this region for sure. I think maybe into here is a decent target for the setup. I think moving towards this is probably pretty decent. It wants to try and take out some stops. It's got to be aggressive a little bit. Nice, good push. Really good push. Really good to see. I think I think played this well in terms of waiting for the setup. Yeah, so I mean, look, would you ever move your stop to entry here, or maybe even in profit, considering you're not going to be up to monitor it? Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing we're going to do now is we're going to take some profit off this position. And we're going to take some size off. The reason we're going to take some size off is that we've already benefited from a 3% move, which is absolutely substantial enough to take some profit off the position. So we're going to skim some profit off the top here on BTC. Okay, so we're going to pay for the position right now. And then what we're going to do is slide the stop up. Right, and we're going to slide the stop up here. You can take the stop to break even if you want to take the stops to break even. You can leave the stop here if you want this to turn to a slightly bigger trade for you. Right, but you know, your best bet here is to bring the stop into break even. I think that's something that's, you know, absolutely acceptable to do. We're entering a region of difficulty for BTC. It's a region that we've seen acting as resistance previously, and although we would have dreams of us hitting this top region, it's important to pay ourselves at resistance in downtrends. It's really important to realize some money, and again, it plays into Wood's point from earlier, right, about how do we get into that mindset of taking profit. And this is a very good example of how we can do that. Who is trying to take out the stops, and why does that always play out? Liquidity seeking, yeah, essentially. Like it's prime for the taking. Because we have loads of like aggressive traders that are shorting the downtrend. They're really reactive. And they place their stops tight above here. And it just makes sense that, you know, when we're looking at, you know, drawing some liquidity from the market, we attack regions like this. Are you still looking to add back in? If you're awake, I won't be awake. 100%. But I hope that, you know, like the thought process has at least been helpful, and I hope that it will be helpful for those people that watch on catch up. And look, if you made money because you took a similar trade, then also nice. Yeah, I've got a personal training session in the morning. I got a personal trainer about 6 weeks ago. So it's one of my twice a week personal training sessions. And for some retarded reason, I decided that it would be a good thing to do it first thing in the morning at like 8 o'clock. I'm never up at 8 o'clock. Because I always stay up super late. So, yeah, I decided for some fucking unknown reason that it was a good idea to do it early, and I've regretted it every day since. Yeah, I do feel good. Like, it does feel good, and like when I get back, I'm like, yeah, I feel good about it. I feel good that I've been up and I've got shit done and I've had a good session early on. But yeah, I mean, like, I'm such a night owl. You know, this is still early for me. You know, I would be up for another couple of hours past this point. Yeah, it's an hour long session. I'm so glad I took the personal training. Like, it's been fucking fantastic, but yeah. Yeah, I'm going to start doing it at 8 a.m. Yeah, it was really good. I was really pleased I did it. My time spent scalping like fucked up my back and neck awfully, because I spent so long just sat at the desk and my posture was fucking horrific. So yeah, you know, finally being more active and strengthening again feels really good. Yeah, posture check. Yeah, it's true. You catch the burger session all relaxed. Yeah, well, like I said, it's been great to get shit done, because I get back to the house and my little boy is he goes to nursery on the 2 days that I have personal training. So it means that I have a clear morning, and then when he gets back from nursery, he naps. And so I have a really good work session. So it means like I'm pumped from the PT, and then have a really good session where I can, you know, produce videos, catch up with you guys in the group, you know, look at the charts, get shit done, and have kind of, you know, free time, which is good as well. Do you do it in a park or inside a gym? So my personal trainer has like she has a gym, and so it's just me and her. Like, we have like just the entire gym to ourselves. So that's nice as well. Don't have anybody else. It's just yeah, and it is a lady, so it's a her. Yeah, I wondered if anybody would pick up on that. Okay, sorry, Woods, I missed out on your question above. You said, what would you say the divergence has played out now? If you were to stay up, how would you look at playing it from here? Well, I don't think it has played out. I think the 15-minute is only just locking in. So I think there's actually a little bit more value to be achieved from this. You take a look at the 5-minute picture here. We've not even had a crossover yet. So I don't think it has played out yet. I still think we can squeeze more value from this position to the upside. So I wouldn't be looking at, exiting the position just yet. I really would be looking to try and squeeze full target out of this. Yeah, I think potentially there's a little bit more value to be squeezed, just because I think Renko is, on the verge of creating a really nice 15-minute divergence here. One that we haven't seen for a long time, actually. And again, we know it's back kind of at these range lows down here. So I don't know. I would definitely try and squeeze some value here. And you see ETH on the 15-minute here, getting above this point here, which means that maybe we could try and target the top of the bands. Would kind of make sense as well. Again, you'll notice the way if you start using these reversion bands, the way they tie in with these areas. So look, if we tag into this area of supply that we've got here, come into the top of these bands, pretty perfect play. Yeah. So again, this depends now on what's your tolerance for aggressiveness on the trade that you're taking. Right, Ed, is this something that you're happy to take profit on? In which case, this is fine. Let's say you got an entry here. Right, you go and squeeze yourself 5% from this move. That's crazy good. That's like, what, 25 minutes of work? You get a 5% move in the market. That's crazy. Now, if your tolerance is that, and you're trading 5-minute bands, then you can take profit for sure, 100%. It's a really nice area to take profit in a downtrend. We're going to be taking profit on these extremes. If we start rolling over to slightly maybe a more aggressive or a slightly higher time frame here, and we say, okay, well, the 15-minute we can see has now crossed over the band for the first time, and the last time it did that here, right, we crossed over the reversion band here, and we made it all the way up to the top. Maybe we can do the same here. Yeah, close at 1985. Yeah, nice job. Right, really good trade. Really nice trade. What type of workout you into? Like for me personally, it's really, so I used to lift a lot, like 5 times a week when I was in my early 20s, so 5 or so years ago. I used to be lifting 5 times a week, and as life and work and everything else takes over, I slowly stopped going to the gym as much. And in the last few years, I've been so focused on trading that really my only activity comes from playing football, walking the dogs, and being out with my child. So really nothing that kind of puts my body under enormous stress, and certainly nothing that puts me into kind of like a strength and conditioning environment. Like the football's a great cardio workout twice a week. Being out and about and active and, making sure I'm always kind of on my feet is important. But the strength and conditioning side has really been left out. So for me right now, it's really a case of building up some strength again. So we're pretty much just focused on heavy lifting at the moment. Juan. Is there Renko training in the group or resources you would recommend reading? There's no resources on Renko in terms of like out there in general. It's all trash. I've recorded yesterday, I recorded last night an introduction to Renko for the Haven. So I'm going to upload that tomorrow and get that put in the group. So there will be content coming from me. And the first one's kind of a 25-minute introduction to Renko, some of the terminology we use, what Renko is used for, etc. What it's good at, what it's bad at. Renko 15-minute, would you let it go to 35,500 in the middle MA in the Cuban? It's a consideration you can have. We'll see whether or not it gets that far. It's definitely a thought process you can have. You think your trading performance changed in a good way after starting training like the old times? Yeah, I would probably say it did. I would probably say that would be a fair assumption to make. I think my trading has been pretty solid for the past, well, since the BTC sell-off. I would say my trading overall has been pretty solid. And the only position I've got currently that's underwater is the Nasdaq short, and I know that's going to be the case for potentially a couple of months yet. So overall, I think it's probably net positive for sure. Appreciate it, man. Thank you. So let's round up there. So anybody that's still in the position, it's now in your hands to determine how you want to play the rest of this position. Okay. So you need to decide what's going to work for you. How often do you want to monitor this position? Are you happy with the profit that you've achieved from watching me? If so, take your damn money. I don't know what's going to happen to this shit once I go to bed. Right, that's it. So just, manage that position how you see fit. I'm not here to baby you through those steps anymore. It's now on you to make the decisions. It's a pleasure. Thank you for listening to me ramble. I can't believe we did 2 hours 20 minutes of talking. But it was a pleasure. So best of luck. Remember, the one thing that we always keep in mind, we are in a macro downtrend. So just keep that in mind with your position. Don't let profit slip away from you when you're in long positions because you get greedy. We're in a downtrend. Be careful. That's a pleasure. Alright, so everybody enjoy the rest of the evening. Enjoy your morning. And I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow when I'm done working out. Everybody take care and thank you for joining me.